Down in the comment section, I want to ask you to do me a favor by outlining those modern comics that you believe best represent the modern era. But before you start your list, I want to give you a rationale for this request and also to provide you with a few criteria to consider. Stay tuned. This video is sponsored by Shortboxed, the easiest and safest way to buy and sell graded comic books. Download the app today using the link in the description. For the last few years, I've created several videos in which I compared the comic book market to the stock market. And part of the reason for this is that I see a lot of similarities between the two. For one, the stock market actually has multiple sectors. And if you think about it, so do comics. If you consider the various ages from the golden age all the way down to the modern age, each one of those could be a sector of the overall comic book market. You then have to factor in original art as well as toys and collectibles as other sectors of the market. The stock market, however, has a couple of really amazing advantages over comics. First and foremost, they have real-time data. Stocks are literally sold every single second from the opening bell to when the market closes at the end of the day. Comic book prices, on the other hand, are always in hindsight, sometimes hours to days later, depending upon the service provider. There are also comics that are bought and sold between private parties and on social media that never make it to a pricing service. Stock markets also have indexes like the Dow Jones or the NASDAQ Composite or the S&P 500 that help investors to track and evaluate the health of an exchange and potentially that of the market overall. And that's where I need your help. I essentially want to build a modern comic index, an index that will allow us through data to evaluate the overall health of what is happening specifically with modern comics. As mentioned, I wanted to provide you with some criteria that you can think about as you're outlining your list. For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to look at single issues of comics from 1985 to the present day. These comics can come from Marvel, DC, Image, as well as indie publishers. Essentially, what we're building is a Dow Jones index for modern comics. And to that point, we're going to be looking at books that are considered blue chip comics, primarily CGC 9.8s. So to that point, we're not going to be focused on anything that is obscure or too hard to find. And more importantly, whatever books we identify have to have a healthy number of monthly sales. We need to see books exchanging hands if we're going to use that data to evaluate the health of the overall market. And in my mind, there are certain books that readily come to mind. Books like Amazing Spider-Man issue number 300, Ultimate Fallout number 4, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and also Something is Killing the Children issue number 1 are just some of the books that readily pop into my mind when I think about these criteria. The question will be, what books come to your mind when you sit down and evaluate what I've outlined in this video thus far? One other point that I would make is that I would stay away from single store variants, as well as books that have small census counts. The reason being that these books probably don't have enough monthly sales to qualify based upon the criteria that have been outlined. Now, the big question comes, what happens next? What do we do next with this data? I am still trying to figure that out, but I thought that this would be a fun challenge. And honestly, this is something that I've been thinking about for a couple of years now, and I'm just now getting around to creating the video. And I'm hopeful that you all will see this as a fun and interesting challenge and will want to lend your support. So with that said, down in the comment section, let me know what comics you think would make up a modern comic index. And if you need to reach out to me to talk about this, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.